The LDS Church's investment arm, Ensign Peak, ended the year with total investments of about $206 billion, based on our estimates. Ensign Peak manages a diversified portfolio. As a reminder, only the directly held U.S. stock market holdings are disclosed on quarterly SEC Forms 13F. BYU investments are also fully disclosed. Other investments have limited or no public disclosure. The church's portfolio is similar to that of DMBA, another subsidiary which manages retirement funds for all church employees. DMBA discloses all of its investments on an annual basis in Federal Department of Labor Forms 5500. While its portfolio is diversified similarly, DMBA's pension investments tend to have less exposure to the stock market and greater exposure to fixed income securities, due to the need for consistent and predictable cash payments to retirees. Ensign Peak's U.S. stock portfolio closely tracks the S&P 500. Its strategy attempts to beat the market by starting with market index weights for all stocks, and then owning more of the index stocks that the firm expects to beat the market, and owning less of the rest. Thus, its positive or negative view on individual stocks can only be discerned by looking at relative weightings. By design, the fund's performance closely mirrors the S&P 500 index. The S&P Index 500 is an appropriate benchmark for Ensign Peak's U.S. stock holdings for several reasons. The portfolio tracks the index with over 99.5% correlation. The index best serves portfolio liquidity objectives. 94 to 97% of total assets are in the fund's top 500 positions. And EP adds significantly to stocks after they are added to the index. Ensign Peak ended 2024 with $56.3 billion in directly held U.S. stocks. The portfolio returned 22.7% in 2024, lagging the index return of 25%, including dividends. Over the past 5 years, Ensign Peak on average has returned about 1% less per year than the market index. This indicates that stock picking detracted from performance. Ensign Peak's U.S. stock portfolio lagged the market by a wide margin in 2024, bringing its cumulative return relative to the S&P 500 to about -8% over 5 years. If Ensign Peak had bought the market index instead, it would have made about $3.7 billion more over this time period. The result would not have been materially different with or without owning the sin stocks like alcohol and tobacco names it avoids. Inconsistent portfolio standards. DMBA owns stocks which Ensign Peak avoids. While alcohol, tobacco and coffee stocks are mutually avoided, there appears to be an ongoing lack of policy uniformity in church-sponsored investment portfolios. DMBA owns Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Monster Beverage and Netflix, all of which are market index names which have been noticeably absent from Ensign Peak's portfolio. In 2024, DMBA invested in Vici Properties, a prominent gambling asset company. Ensign Peak's U.S. stock portfolio is more than 99.5% correlated with the S&P 500 index, a result of its index-based, relative weighting strategy. Beta of 1.00 means Ensign Peak's U.S. stock portfolio exhibited identical risk and volatility as the S&P 500 index. Negative alpha means stock picking detracted from performance in 2024. At times, Ensign Peak may be a net buyer or net seller of stocks. In 2024, the fund sold about $4.7 billion of its U.S. stock holdings. This may be due to rebalancing after very strong U.S. market returns in 2023 and 2024, relative to other types of assets such as international stocks, real estate, or bonds. Since only directly held positions in U.S. stocks are disclosed on Ensign Peak's 13F filings, it can be confusing to see these filings and wonder what the fund's total investment balances are. Based on documented ranges for target portfolio mix across all asset categories, U.S. stock holdings of $56.3 billion at the end of 2024 implies the LDS Church had total investments of $182 to $217 billion as of December 31, 2024. The Widows' Mite Report. All of the information contained in this report was obtained through analysis of publicly available sources. See our website for full reports and references.